Hi, everybody. My name is Jarrett Rush. I'm the content marketing director at Idea Growth. And the other day we published a blog post to our site about why this is the wrong time to actually quit your social media, paid social media campaigns. And it was written by Talissa Bell. She is the other person on screen here with me, and she's the senior leader of our social media team. And there was a point in that post, not to steal too much from it, at the end about why this is the right time for experimentation. This is a good opportunity to kind of experiment with your social media. And I wanted to kind of explore that a little bit more, Talissa. Why is
Mhm.
this the right time for exploration on social media, and what does that actually look like?
Yeah, so whenever we're talking about exploring on social, there's different areas. So you have your typical A/B testing, where that's going to be kind of just you're testing copy, or you're testing, it's usually one variable at a time. So you're just going to test something like copy, or you're going to test like the image asset or something like that. But in addition to that, brands should also be taking the time to experiment with their overall messaging. If they've been wanting to kind of give themselves a facelift and change how they're appearing with their content, whether it's changing the type of medium that they're posting out there, maybe they want to switch to more video content, or maybe they want to switch to a brighter color scheme or something like that, or maybe they want to change the type of tone that they're using in their social content. Right now is the perfect time to do it. You have a lot more people that are online than usually are. And then because of that, you have a higher chance of getting more impressions, and it gives you a great gauge, especially during kind of an uncertain time, what does and doesn't do well. Because if something's doing well right now, it'll definitely do well whenever things kind of resume back to normal, or whatever this new normal is going to be.
So this is not A/B testing. That's the thing I think people think about A/B testing a lot when they think about paid things, but you're talking about something completely different than A/B testing.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, A/B testing is something that most people are already doing on social media on a day-to-day basis. But this is something completely different. This is you experimenting with how your brand is appearing, how it's sounding, those types of things. So it's a little bit of a different approach. And a lot of times brands, once they finally establish like a brand identity or how they want to sound on social, a lot of times they have trouble justifying breaking away from the norm of what they're doing, because it can be a little scary to spend dollars on something that could or could not go well. But I mean, there you never know until you try, and this particular moment is a fantastic time to do that, because other companies right now are pivoting and adjusting how they're doing their messaging too. So what was unusual for somebody that would only, for our sake, for business to business, they may only post about B2B type content, but suddenly we also have a need for being more compassionate and helping people in general on social. So you may now start to get content that's focused more so on the folks that are consuming it. It may not be directly related to the brand, but it is something that is quote unquote socially relevant. So you can see how those types of messages work, and see if it's well received, or if it's just, it seems so completely off kilter that people aren't receptive to it.
So how do you mentioned earlier that maybe this is a time to look for what is a success, experiments that are actually succeeding. How do you judge success, especially at a time when things may be a little different than normal? In your post you do mention there's a lot more traffic right now. So
Yeah,
so how do you judge whether or not something is a success when things aren't
sure.
necessarily normal?
I think setting proper expectations for your tests right now that you're putting out there is a very important part of it. So I will say this, brands probably shouldn't expect conversions at this point in time. I mean, there's a few brands that no matter what, people are going to buy product, but for the most part, people right now are kind of tightening their wallets. But that ties back to how you're setting up your social media campaigns, and that's what's going to dictate your success. So what I would recommend at this particular point in time as you're experimenting with your content, focus on things like awareness, and also web traffic or consideration, depending on which platform it is that you're using. So if it's an awareness campaign, it's going to be, you're focusing on reach and impressions. You're going to focus on things like, are people engaging with the content? Is it being shared? Are people reacting to it? That type of thing. But with web traffic focus, what you can do is you can feature the content, and the things you should be looking at are your click-through rate and the volume of clicks that you're getting, and your cost per click as well. Um, the big thing, the big takeaway right now is, as you're experimenting with things, you're really out there trying to capture people that may not have been exposed to your brand before, and have them join the consideration pipeline. They're not going to be ready at this particular time, but they'll maybe a month or two later, as they get more exposed to your brand, more ads, that kind of thing, you may be able to push them further down the conversion funnel with more time.
You mentioned a second ago that companies can sometimes be a little hesitant to experiment because they've taken so much time to
Hmm.
build a brand. You know, they have their colors, they have their language that they use. But isn't social sort of the place where you can play a little bit with that and
Yeah.
push those boundaries?
Yeah, absolutely. Out of all the places, I think that social really is the place where a brand should be the least rigid. I always say that brands should be adapting to play in the realm of socials world, not the other way around. So if you're a very formal company, you still will probably end up using more casual language, not so much to where it's so completely out of the box, but utilizing things like emojis and things like that isn't necessarily out of character for a brand on social because it tends to be a very casual, authentic, genuine place to go.
Well, so listen, I think that's everything I had. I think you give us a lot of great information here, and I really appreciate you taking just a few minutes today to chat. Thanks a
Oh,
lot.
no, my pleasure. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks.